This lecture will examine the tissue level of organization in the human body. This lecture, part 2 of 3, will discuss the connective tissues found in the body. Connective tissues provide structural framework for other tissues. Connective tissues, while being diverse, share some basic concepts. They are composed of specialized cells, they have extracellular protein fibers, and a fluid known as ground substance that fills the space between the cells. The protein fibers and ground substance compose what is known as the matrix, the non-living material that surrounds the cells. The functions of connective tissue include the support and protection, as seen in bone and cartilage tissue, material transportation, as seen in fluid connective tissues such as the blood and lymph, as well as the storage of energy reserves, as seen in the adipose tissue or fat tissue, and the defense of the body. There are 3 major types of connective tissues: connective tissue proper, fluid connective tissues, and supporting connective tissues. Connective tissue proper has a matrix of ground substance and extracellular fibers that surround multiple cell types. It can be loose or dense. Fluid connective tissues have a matrix of watery ground substance full of dissolved proteins that the cells are suspended in. Examples include the blood and the lymph. Supporting connective tissues have dense ground substance and have closely packed fibers in the matrix, which support more specific cell populations. Examples include cartilage and bone. The cells found in the connective tissue proper include fibroblasts, which make ground substance and fibers and are the most abundant cell found in the connective tissue proper. Macrophages are phagocytic cells that basically eat pathogens and damaged cells to remove them from the tissue. These macrophages can be either fixed or free. We also find fat cells called adipocytes in the connective tissue proper, as well as mast cells. Mast cells are cells that release chemicals that trigger defense mechanisms in response to injury or infection. The connective tissue fibers include collagen fibers, which are strong and flexible, elastic fibers, which are composed of elastin and can stretch, and reticular fibers, which are thinner than collagen fibers and form a framework. Here is an illustration of the components found in the connective tissue proper. Note the diversity of cells that are scattered throughout. Also note the different fibers that help compose the tissue. The long and strong collagen fibers can be seen here. Note how they differ from the thinner branched reticular fibers, seen up here. The elastic fibers can also be seen here in blue. Recall that the connective tissue proper can be either loose or dense. There are several types of loose connective tissue, including areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue. Areolar tissue, seen here, is composed of all the cells and fibers that compose the connective tissue proper. It provides cushioning, support, and defense, and can be found in areas such as below the dermis of the skin, in the digestive, urinary, and respiratory tracts, between muscles, around blood vessels, and also nerves and joints, around those nerves and joints. So here you can see all the different collagen fibers. You can see a large fat cell right here. The fibroblasts that are going to help make that ground substance. We see a bunch of elastic fibers running through here, stained purple. You can see some of those. As well as a macrophage. A macrophage is found right here. And remember, those are those phagocytic cells that'll eat debris, pathogens, things of that nature, and remove them from the tissue. Adipose tissue contains a large amount of adipocytes, or fat cells. This tissue also provides cushioning as well as insulation and energy storage. It can be found under the skin at the sides of the body, the flanks, the buttocks, the breasts, and it serves as padding around the eyes and kidneys. Notice how the adipocytes are dominated by their fat inclusion. The nucleus of each cell does not reside in the center, rather it is pushed to the side. So here you can see a nucleus of that cell, and then the adipocyte is going to be filled with that fat inside of here, pushing that to the side, the edge near the cell membrane. Reticular tissue is composed of reticular fibers that provide a supporting framework. Reticular tissue is found in many organs, including the liver, kidneys, spleen, as well as lymph nodes and bone marrow. So here you can see those reticular fibers scattered throughout, providing that structural framework. Two types of dense connective tissue include the dense regular connective tissue and the dense irregular connective tissue. The dense regular connective tissue is also known as fibrous or collagenous tissue and is composed of tightly packed parallel collagen fibers. These fibers are well organized here. This tissue provides attachments, conducts the pull of muscles, and stabilizes bone positions. It can be found in tendons, ligaments, and covering skeletal muscles. The example of dense connective tissue shown is from a tendon. So here you can see all of those collagen fibers and how they line up parallel to each other throughout that tissue that makes up the tendon. Dense irregular connective tissue also has collagen fibers, but they are unorganized. They do not form an organized pattern. This type of tissue provides strength and helps prevent overexpansion of organs. Dense irregular tissue can be found in visceral organ capsules, around bones and cartilages, and in the skin. An example of dense irregular connective tissue found here is from the deep dermis. Note the lack of pattern compared to the dense regular connective tissue we saw on the previous slide. We see those collagen fibers in bundles, and they do not have that nice parallel organized structure that we had seen in the dense regular connective tissue. Fluid connective tissue includes both the blood and the lymph. This type of tissue is composed of that watery matrix with dissolved proteins, as well as the cells that they suspend. The formed elements found in blood include red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. There are two major types of supporting connective tissues, the cartilage and the bone. Cartilage has a gel-type ground substance that helps provide shock absorption and protection. Bone is more rigid due to calcium and mineral deposits present in the matrix. And this more rigid structure allows for the support of weight that bone provides. The structure of cartilage is formed by a matrix consisting of proteoglycans and proteins housing what are called chondrocytes, or cartilage cells, within lacunae. Cartilage is avascular, so chondrocytes rely on diffusion of nutrients and waste for their survival. The perichondrium refers to the outer layer of cartilage and is composed itself of an outer fibrous layer and an inner cellular layer. There are three types of cartilage. They are the hyaline, the elastic, and the fibrocartilage. Hyaline cartilage is the most common and is composed of collagen fibers. It provides flexible support and can be found between the ribs and the sternum, over bones at synovial joints, supporting the larynx, the trachea, and the bronchi, and as part of the nasal septum. Note the lacunae in the tissue. Elastic cartilage is composed of elastic fibers and provides support and tolerates distortion. It can be found in the auricle of the ear and the epiglottis, amongst other places. Note here the elastic fibers around the chondrocytes in the lacunae. The fibrocartilage is composed of little ground substance and has a lot of collagen fibers. This tissue restricts compression, bone-to-bone contact, and limits movement. Fibrocartilage can be found in the intervertebral discs, between the pubic bones, and in the pads of the knee joint. So fibrocartilage we find in places that need a little bit of that extra padding or cushion that kind of helps the resistance to some of that compression that we find in those areas. With regards to bone, bone is also known as osseous tissue. It is composed of calcium compounds and collagen fibers, making it very strong and shatter resistant. The osteocytes or bone cells are housed in the lacunae, and blood supply channels travel through caniculi in the matrix. This is how they're able to get their nutrients. The periosteum is composed of a fibrous and cellular layer and covers the surface of the bone. And bones are continually remodeling. They can repair after injuries such as a break. Let's review with a checkpoint. What are the 3 types of connective tissues? Feel free to pause the lecture while you formulate your response. The 3 types of connective tissue are connective tissue proper, examples being loose and dense, fluid connective tissues, examples being blood and lymph, and supporting connective tissues, examples being cartilage and bone.